All right, good morning, everyone, for our formal start of our morning Zoom. It's Monday, March 3rd, 2025. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories. Today, what we said we're going to go through are kind of a combination of topics that are interrelated. So, what are some of those topics that we're going to address today? We're going to address collateral, we're going to address financing to purchase too many S's there, to purchase a shelf corp from you. We're going to talk about liquidation. All these are interrelated. So, big picture with no upfront cost, clients can come to you as a reseller and purchase a shelf corp, a fundable shelf corp. That's not really the goal today to go in deep to what a shelf corp is. If you need more information on that, there's separate training. So if there's no upfront cost, then we're going to need to facilitate financing. So once you get the client under contract for a shelf corp, then you're going to upload that. Typically, you're going to upload that into the portal that we provide you. And then we're going to be ready to apply for funding. So this is a real example of a funding proposal application for one of Joseph's clients. And Joseph is a real reseller. He's actually here on training. So Joseph, if you want to contribute anything, let me know. So Joseph went out and found Mr. Kim. Mr. Kim is a business owner. He has a business that is in existence. Has some cash flow coming in, not a whole lot of cash flow. And Mr. Kim wants to borrow the money to be able to pay Joseph, the reseller, to pay for the shelf corp. Now, does Joseph have to fill out a funding application the way he did? No. If he just wants to pay Joseph directly, Mr. Kim can pay Joseph directly. But if Mr. Kim doesn't want to pay out of pocket, which is we're not pushing for that, we want zero out of pocket, then Mr. Kim fills out an application. So we send to the client and we copy you as a reseller this agreement. So we collect basic business information. Now it says, hey, this information's optional because a lot of folks, they won't have a fundable business yet. That's why they're buying a shelf corp. So in those cases, it may be that all of this is just all the top. Sorry, I didn't mean that highlight like that. All of this at the top may be blank. And if that's the case, that's fine. But we certainly do need a key person. There's got to be someone that's essentially the guarantor, someone that is going to personally pledge for the funding. Now, keep in mind, there's two phases of funding, right? There's the initial funding to pay you for the shelf corp. And then there's the second round of funding that is after they have the shelf corp, and that's where we're going to get the larger business funding. So in other words, we'll be able to fill this out robustly once they have bought the shelf corp. But they need to buy the shelf corp from you as a reseller first, and they need to pay for it. So we have a consortium of about 40 different lenders that are excited to loan money to your clients so they can pay you to buy a shelf corp. So there's a basic set of information that we need. We collect first name, last name. The title isn't so important, but it's what is their role with the business, their cell phone, their email. Now this is the home information, home address. Sorry, my highlighting is not working narrowly, but we do need to get home address information. Are they renting? Are they owning? And you might say, well, hey, why does, I don't know why that's highlighting so crazily. Why does that matter what their property status is like? I don't know, but it's literally part of underwriting. What's their education level? You might say, oh, why is that important? I don't know, but it's part of the underwriting. So this isn't really about what you like or dislike or what I like or dislike. This is just the truth. This is how the underwriting works, especially for that first tranche, that first round of funding that is being used to get financing so they can pay you for the shelf corp. Self-reported credit scores. Now, some people will lie. Now, Mr. Kim actually does have really high credit. He has almost 800 credit scores. So that's very impressive. makes him very eligible, and he got lots of offers, and I can tell you about those in a moment. But in the sense that if they have low credit, it's okay. We're not screening out anyone based upon their credit scores, but we're gathering the data so we can put it into the consortium lending input, no hard inquiries, and get offers. We're going to need their social, their driver's license information. Some people don't have a driver's license for one reason or the other, but regardless, we normally would be collecting that. We need their birth date, total monthly income. So this is talking about personal income. Up here, we'd be asking about business income and then how often they're paid. So then they sign off on this. So what's the deal? So when Joseph went to Mr. Kim, Mr. Kim said, yes, I want to pay you, Joseph, for a shelf corporation. Joseph picks the price, just like you do. I think Joseph sells his for 20,000, but don't quote me on that. Some of you sell for more or less. You pick the price. But now we're involved because we're facilitating the funding for the client. Now, on this application, I think it's very straightforward. Again, what do we need to take away from it? Optional information on top, real information on bottom. So from that, then what we're able to do is then run offers. And so did this new document pop up? Do you all see a new document on the screen that says Exhibit A? If you could respond in the Q&A. I don't know if I need to reshare my screen or not. Do you all see what says Exhibit A? Okay, good. Karen says yes. So this is the documentation, so we're able to validate that we're doing what we promised to do. So this is a lot of gobbledygook that you don't care so much about, but it's all the activity that we put in to getting Mr. Kim funding offers. Because Mr. Kim came to us and said, I want to borrow money to pay Joseph to buy a shelf corporation. He chose to do that. He elected to fill out the application, and I see the screen went blank. Don't know why. It'll come back, I'm sure. And so then we did what he asked us to do, what he gave us permission to do. And so what we're showing there is just a bunch of background noise that you really don't care about, just to validate that we did that. So from that, Mr. Kim walked away with a bunch of offers. And so then the way that it works with what we call the first tranche, so then the client gets the offers and they can accept the offers they want. They can not accept those that they don't want. I guess I actually have those I can show. Let me scroll down. My computer did an upgrade over the weekend and it's operating horrendously. But here in a moment, I'll actually show you the offers, so we know that it's all valid and credible and real. Okay, so let's scroll down. We stopped there before at the top. Let's see if we can get it to scroll down. So what happens is, in this case, Joseph, the reseller, his client, Mr. Kim, got a bunch of offers. And we'll see those here at the bottom if the computer ever catches up. He got 4 offers from Reprise, just that's one of the lenders. If you added them all up, it was a little over 75,000. Interest rates very reasonable for a first tranche. Now, you might say, oh, 12%, that's too high. We don't really want to worry about the interest rates on the first tranche because this is like bridge financing, short-term financing. We'll pay this off with the business funding that the client will get after they get the shelf corp. But he also got over 20 different offers from Prosper. Those totaled over 100,000. He had 18 offers from Upgrade that also totaled over 100,000. So Mr. Kim could accept one or multiple offers, typically no more than one per lender. Had 21 offers from Universal Credit, had 8 more offers from Regional Finance, which is different than Reprise, 7 offers from CashNet, 3 offers from Net Credit, 4 offers from OneMain, 6 offers from Avant. So if Mr. Kim said, oh, you guys didn't do what you promised to do, that's not a real statement, is it? Right? Because he came to us, he asked for an application, he filled out the application, we ran it, and this is the gobbledygook in the background that shows that we did it. And the outcome were these funding offers. Now, when we do funding offers, it's important to understand that there's a bilateral promise. So if clients come to us and say they want BPC, business paralegal, to facilitate financing to pay you, the reseller, for the shelf court, they're asking us to run the app and get offers like we did for Mr. Kim, and then they're promising to accept at least enough to pay you, the reseller. So in this case, what happened is we did all of this, but what did Yoon say? Yoon was talking to one of our reps. Her name is Bianca. He talked to her on February 12th, 2025 at 12:27 p.m. And what did Yoon say, Mr. Kim say? Not going to move forward. Not going to move forward. So now what has happened is we've gone from an active client that's on track to buy a shelf court from Joseph, the reseller, and to turn around and get all of those benefits to a non-participating client. And that's really our topic today. So when we have a client, so we've done everything we promised, right? Can you see anything here that suggests we didn't do what we promised? I mean, the outcome's great. But Mr. Kim said, nope, don't want to move forward. And in fact, he said he quits. He just quits. Well, when there's a bilateral promise, there's a contract, you can't just quit without there being obligations. Paul wanted to know about interest rates. And I told you, Paul, the interest rates were as low as 12%. So we covered that, didn't we, Paul? Right? But do the interest rates really matter, Paul? Because we're talking about what, a 30 to 60 day bridge loan. So who cares if it was fucking 24% or 36%? A large interest rate for a small period of time, in my opinion, is irrelevant. Now, if he was going to carry these loans out for 5 years, then that would be a significant concern. Now, this is a reflection of what Yoon qualified for, right? This is not us making it more expensive or less expensive. These are the market rates. So this is what he qualifies for. But he's a qualified guy, right? We've already looked at his credit. Let's go back. He's near 800. So he opted out. So now let's move to the next part of the conversation. So this becomes a non-performing receivable that we can transfer to one of your clients who can then use it as collateral, because collateral is needed for most business loans. Most of the clients that you and I work with will come to us and not have enough collateral. So AR, accounts receivables, collateral. So there's money that Yoon owes that instead of him owing us, we can transfer to your client. And we commonly call that QuickCash. So one of your clients, we could transfer Yoon's agreement. Now, how much does Yoon owe? So let's go over to the next screen, and this is the invoice. So we can look at it, and it slowly will hopefully update. So here's the invoice, so all this is real, right? We're not making shit up or giving you examples. This is real. He's a real person. Joseph's a real reseller. Joseph's on the training. I invited Yoon as well. Let's see if he's on. He's not on, but I did invite him to be here, so you know that we're very transparent. So once Yoon said, nope, not going to participate, then we invoice them a default invoice, because that's what the contract supports. We're never going to make things up. We're not going to be pricks. We're just going to follow the contract. There's a contract that Yoon signed. He said he wanted us to help him get financing. He promised to accept financing. He didn't. He quit. He quit on us. He quit on Joseph. So now he gets an invoice. Now, this invoice, it's important to see. What are some important elements of the invoice? Well, there's the global default. So he owes 10,000, which again, that's supported directly with the contract. It's not made up. It's not harassment. It's not BS. And then also the contract says, hey, client, if you back out and we have to go chase after you for money, we're going to add on top of what you owe Joseph, we're going to go after the collection costs. So that's allowed because it's part of the contract. So that's important to understand. So what happens is when your clients use QuickCash or our accounts receivable in general, while the face value may be 10,000 per contract, we're going to double that, which is allowed contractually and legally. So when we do a split of the money that's collected, your client's getting everything that they expected, and then we get paid for our time and effort. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, type it in the Q&A and we'll go through it. Now, in addition to that, there are late fees. And again, when you look at this, you need to look at this from the perspective of running a business, not the personal sides. Some of you become so emotionally involved, it's like, oh my goodness, I feel bad for Mr. Kim. I wish I could just give him a hand job right now so he feels better. No, he owes money, right? He breached the contract. Don't know really why. He made an educated decision to breach the contract, to not pay Joseph, to not follow through. There was nothing that we were left to resolve. It's not like we dropped the ball. And so now he's getting also hit with daily late fees. So that is growing every day. Every day this amount goes up. Hopefully that'll motivate Mr. Kim to pay sooner than later, because whichever of your clients buys this defaulted contract, not only do they want a large amount, they want the money probably as soon as possible. So while the $50 a day is a nice increase in money that your client will receive or should receive, we'd rather get paid right away. So then what do we do when the client doesn't pay? So let's say that, who do we have on here that I should pull out? We got Rod. Rod's one of our big hitters. So let's say Rod's got a client. Client has a collateral shortfall for the big loan, the business loan. And so Rod's client wants to buy Mr. Kim's defaulted contract, which is worth currently $20,150. That's what the real value is. So then we would transfer this contract over to Rod's client. Now it's AR owed to Rod's client, not to us, for $20,150. And then we're going to ask Yoon to pay, because Yoon has promised to pay. Again, we're not bullying Yoon. We're not being mean or unfavorable. He's breached the contract. So Yoon would get this invoice, which frankly, Yoon did get this invoice. It was sent out, looks like most recently, I guess most recently it was sent March 1st. All right, so with that being said then, now the money is now owed to the buyer of the QuickCash. Now Yoon owes them, not us. It's real, and this is true accounts receivable. We're going to provide a copy of this contract to the debt buyer, whomever buys the QuickCash, to show that this is real and it's really owed to them, and it can be used as collateral for the loan. So with that then, we're going to help the debt buyer, the QuickCash buyer, collect the money from Yoon. And so we could either report it on Yoon's credit, which Yoon probably doesn't want a negative item on his credit. I mean, he's sitting at almost an 800. If Yoon knows he owes this money, there's no question he owes it, right? So this isn't some gray area. Well, does he really owe it? Of course he owes it. So if he owes it, we can put it on his credit, and that might motivate him to pay. Another option is we could sue him. We could litigate it. So let's take a look at the next screen. And we did prepare the lawsuit, which has not been filed yet, but we prepared the lawsuit. So there's no cause number added yet. So if we're licensed, bonded, and insured as a collection agency, because what do we really want? Well, what we really wanted was Yoon just to participate in the beginning, right? We didn't want any of this. We wanted Yoon to accept the funding offers that he got, well over $300,000 fucking dollars he had access to. He walked away from all of that. He stuck his middle finger up at Joseph. So Yoon created a default. We're asking him to pay nicely. Hey, you owe it. Pay. If not, we can put it on his credit, or we can litigate. So the way that we litigate is atypical. It's not a normal type of litigation, but that's not my goal today, to teach you small business lawsuits. But essentially, we would create a lawsuit and we would file it. And so it's going to be against Mr. Kim. We've got his address, we've got his driver's license, we got the last four of his social. Because remember, we know who this is. This isn't some identity theft where someone pretended to be Yoon. This is him. He signed it, and we can go all the way down to the bottom. Slowly. It's the screen. And so there's no question, right? So we sent the agreement to him, and then he signed it, and we know his IP address, we know the type of browser he was using. We do two-factor authentication. So there's literally no argument that Yoon has for not paying other than he just decided, oh, never mind. So if he doesn't pay, then we can sue, and we sue in Wood County, Texas, where we know the judge really well. I'll be over there in a few minutes talking to the judge about a different case. If we're going to file on small claims, it's different than filing in district or federal court. Just depends upon the amount owed. We're offering a settlement to Yoon, trying to get him to pay a lesser amount to close this out. We're offering to settle it for $20,000 versus $20,150, which is going to go up $50 every day. And so then this is the full lawsuit, and this will be filed under my name. So this keeps the debt buyer out of it, right? Because Yoon's probably not happy with this right now, even though it's clear that Yoon defaulted and he breached the agreement, which that's his choice. He probably thinks we're the bad guys, but we're not, right? So what questions, comments, concerns do any of you have? Because I wanted you to have kind of a background look of what happens when you have a client, because you sign the contract with them to buy the shelf corp. That's between you and them. And they can just pay you out of pocket if you want to just collect from them, or we can finance. If we're going to finance, we're going to send them a funding proposal application. It's going to look just like this. It's going to be blank. We'll copy you on it. They're going to fill it out. We're going to get them offers. But the deal is, if they're going to do this, they're making a promise now to us. So now there's technically two contracts, right? They have a contract with you to pay you for the shelf, and now they've got a contract with us to go through the funding. And so I want to make sure it's very transparent, that it seems fair, that it seems ethical. All right, so Todd asked about what if the person never pays? Well, it's kind of, do you remember back in elementary school, ask, tell, make? You know, when little Todd was not sitting in his chair in kindergarten, we could we could ask Todd, please go back to your seat, buddy, and sit down. You're at the apple chair. And if he doesn't, then we tell Todd, I need you to go sit down. You know the class rules. And then if Todd doesn't do it, we grab him by the little fucking throat and we go put him in his seat. So ask, tell, make. There's a very, very, very high probability that Mr. Kim's going to pay because it's a real agreement. We've delivered as promised. He hasn't. We can report it on his credit, which he probably wouldn't like, which we'd rather not do, right? We just want him to do what he promised to do. And we can also sue him. So is there a possibility? Todd's question is, what if the person never pays? There's a possibility, but it's a small possibility because of all the documentation I've just shown you. All right, so who else has questions? So I'm not asking you to learn to do this, but you need to know what goes on behind the scenes, right? So you as a reseller, you sell the shelf corpse, you pick the price, that's a contract between you and them. Your clients never have to fill out a funding app if they don't want to. They don't have to. So if they wanted to just pay you or arrange their own financing, that's fine. But if they want to use our funding model, then this is it. So it's fair, it's not mean, it's nothing but a nice way to say, hey, you can buy a shelf corp from any of our resellers with no money out of pocket. There'll be two steps. Step one, sign your contract with the reseller. Step two, come to us and we'll facilitate funding. We'll get you offers normally in 24 hours. You can accept the offers that you want. You can accept just enough to pay the reseller for the shelf corp. You can put extra cash in your pocket. We see this as short-term financing. Should be paid off in 30, 60, 90 days. Interest rate might be a little bit higher than what you'd prefer, but it's a short-term note. And if you don't like the offers, then just go pay the reseller directly. Maria's asking, if I interpret her question, can people just come buy QuickCash directly? Sure. And we do that often. So if you go to 509, let me pull the notepad back up. You can go to 509 Pacific and people can just buy that. And so I ran a little bit long. Our goal today was to auction this off. So would anyone be interested in buying Mr. Kim's defaulted agreement? You've got a great understanding of what he owes, of his credibility. How much is it worth? Well, on paper, it's worth $20,150, and it's going to go up each day by $50. We'll do the liquidation. We'll handle the collection of the money for you. We'll split the money collected 50-50, which sounds kind of shitty until you realize, well, we're adding the collection cost as a separate line item. So are any of you interested in buying this contract today? And if so, how much would you be willing to pay for it? Just curious. So if you could buy a $20,150 receivable, it's real. Will we collect all 20,150? Don't know that, but it certainly will go on your balance sheet. Okay, Shelly brings up a great point about flipping these, and that's right. We've had a different training. So when you buy AR, yes, it goes on your balance sheet for collateral. Yes, it's worth this much, but as resellers, you can resell it for a profit. So let's say that Sherman ends up being the highest bidder, and I think Sherman's willing to go 1,000 on this. So Sherman sends us $1,000, and we send him this agreement. So now Yoon doesn't owe us anymore. Yoon owns Sherman. We handle the collections for Sherman. We split the money received 50-50, but that's not a bad deal for Sherman because we're adding the collection cost on top. What could Sherman do? What could the debt buyer do with this? They could keep it and collect it, or they could flip it, which is what Shelley's point is. So you could have your next client that has a collateral shortfall. You could have your own inventory of AR if you wanted, and you could sell it to them for a profit. So let's say Sherman buys this deal, which is probably too low, but Sherman is maybe willing to offer 1,000. And so then Sherman could turn around and provide it to one of his clients that has a collateral shortfall for 2,000, and bam, he's just doubled his money. Paul's clarifying, and that's right. So we're licensed, bonded, and insured to collect the money. So we'll handle the liquidation rather you buy this agreement or in general, that's a function that we provide. All right, anything that doesn't make sense? I know we went a little long and I apologize. I try to avoid that, but does anything that we covered not make sense? So when you want to borrow money, banks typically want to see that the borrower has collateral. If they don't have collateral, that's called a collateral shortfall. And you and I, we can provide the collateral that's needed. And the collateral that's needed comes in the form of non-performing receivables like Yoon's contract. And it's real. It's collectible, and it can be an asset on the balance sheet pledged as collateral. So then we'll take care of collecting that money for your client. But again, very rarely do these cases go to court because, I mean, why would Yoon want to go hire an attorney and spend time and energy defending this lawsuit, which there's no defense, right? He signed the damn agreement. He gave us the information. We delivered on it, right? Let's pull it back up. Right? It's not like, oh, we did nothing. Some people aren't familiar with contract law. So if Yoon's not educated, he's a very smart man, but let's say Yoon was a dummy and Yoon said, well, I never got any money, so I don't owe it. No, that's not true because we don't waste time chasing financing for people that don't promise to accept it. Otherwise, we're wasting time. So if someone fills this out, they're promising to accept funding. Otherwise, it is a waste of our time. We've done it. They've gotten, in this case, Yoon's got a ton of offers, and we could subpoena each of these lenders to come in and testify. Yeah, we offered Yoon all of these offers. He got close to $500,000, not quite, but close to $500,000. But he said, nope, not going to move forward. All right. And so again, wrapping it up, wanted you to understand the background of how debt buying, debt selling, collateral, liquidation works. The goal is just simply for people to do what they promise to do so it doesn't become an accounts receivable. Some people won't, like Yoon didn't. We try to resolve it with him. As recently as yesterday, I was trying to reach Yoon saying, hey, Yoon, we don't want to sell your debt to Sherman. It looks like Sherman's the buyer. Our goal wasn't to go sell Yoon's debt to Sherman today. But Yoon wanted to sit there and however he rationalized, no, he would rather face negative collections and litigation rather than just simply doing what he promised to do. All right, well, we'll be back tomorrow morning. Let me know what your thoughts, feedback. If you need to speak to someone, give Madison a call. If you need QuickCash like Yoon's, just go to 509 Pacific. If you're not a reseller / grant coordinator, also done on 509 Pacific. And we'll see you back tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.